That's just code like
You just use your own book.
Actually, I'm not getting a discount, but it'll go towards mine, paying for mine.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that soon to see where we're at.
The one that chewed everybody's butt over how bad it looked outside.
You didn't bring your drawing, did you?
Huh?
You didn't bring your drawing, did you?
Got my drawing, got my laser and stuff in the truck.
Oh, okay. And we're not gonna do any inspecting, anything with the tools tonight, so don't worry about it.
Can you sort this day? The other guy said board.
So everybody in here has read the chapter 5 in the Welding Inspection Technology book, right? About the codes and standards and all that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to kind of, we went through the book of specifications through clause 1 and 2 in a lot of detail. We had quite a few questions on that. We went through clause 3 a little bit, which was what? Which part is that? Without looking. What's it cover? Clause 3 in the book. Pipeline. And what about clause 4?
High pressure.
Pressure piping.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've gone through that, and then we're up to clause 5 and 6, which clause 5 is what? Procedure qualification, and clause 6 is?
Welder qualification.
But it's in the book, it's called? Performance qualification. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off. We're going to open up the D1.1 tonight for a minute, and we're going to go through it. Just talk about the different clauses that are in there. Maybe read a few things out of them. Talk about them. But then we're going to focus in D1.1 on clause 4. Go ahead and open it up and see what clause 4 is in D1.1.
Qualification.
So instead of breaking it up in two separate clauses like the book of specification does, it's all in one. And we'll go through it and kind of see how, but it is broken up itself. It's got some, divisions within it. We're going to do that. And we're going to also use clause 5 and clause 6 of the book of specifications to kind of compare welder procedures, welder performance qualification, procedure qualification, right? Okay. It may be a lot of information, but if this is just the, hey, we're going to get introduced to it, and then we'll do more and more later and later. Okay? There's no, do what?
It's 111. Actually, it starts on 109.
Yeah, just turn to where in the D1.1 where it says clause 4.
Yeah.
And you can just kind of thumb through the top of it and flip it up there, and you'll see the numbers change. Get to the one that's got the 4 on it.
Page 109.
But you can kind of take it and grab a hold of it from the beginning on page 111 or 109, I'm sorry, all the way back to page, where does it go to? 164. Okay. Now, one of the big things that you'll hear people talk about if they're making something or welding something is, oh, you've got to have a certified welder if you're going to comply with the code. That many pages covers the qualification of both the welders and the welding procedures. The rest of it, well, except for clause 3, is the other stuff that you're supposed to do. Okay? You can take out the last half of it is what they call commentary. And there's some mandatory appendixes in there. But still, there's more pages about other stuff besides just having your welder certified. Okay? So that, how many people have thought before that, oh, if I'm going to do stuff by the code, I've got to have my welder certified? Anybody? Well, that was just it. That was the big, ooh, got to have a welder certified.
Well, it used to say it on the prints at a couple places I looked at.
Yeah.
Welder must be certified. Certified to what?
Certified to what? Yeah. It's like it, oh boy, I'm certified on something special. That book is big right there, and a lot of the other code books are the same way. The ASME, boiler and pressure vessel code, for instance, is this thick if you're to stack all the different sections together for boilers, pressure vessels, that kind of stuff. And the book for qualification is about that thick. And it covers qualification of welders, brazers, and procedures. Okay? So all those code books, that big, That's the stuff for qualification. Most of those other codes, they just refer to it, as opposed to those codes of construction having rules in them like D1.1 does for qualifying your welders. They have a whole separate book they refer to. Okay, and you guys should already be familiar with that by reading what chapter? Chapter 5. Yeah, chapter 5 of the Weld Inspection Technology book addressed a whole lot of that. Okay, what I want you to do right now is take your D1.1, open it up to there's a forward in there. Okay, tells you a little bit of a history about the code. Okay, we're not going to read through it. I'm not going to bore you with listening to my voice until I get something real good I want to read. But it's some good information to know. But the better information to know once you get into being an inspector or working with a code book, that very next bottom part down there.
Summary of changes.
That summary of changes. Okay? That's a good thing to read through whenever you get a new edition of a code book to see what's different. Not that we ever memorize the code book, but we do. To see what's different from the one that you have in your head. Okay? You should be able to look through the summary of the changes after we get fully trained in this class, and hopefully not have any kind of parent or any statement here that says, I don't know what they're talking about. Okay? Now you may not understand how to, if it's a reference to a design item or calculation or something like that, I wouldn't expect you to know how to do that, but at least you'd be familiar with that terminology that was used. Okay? So, what I want you to do for a homework assignment is read the foreword, read all of the summary of the changes, you don't have to memorize none of them, I just want you to know where they're at. And I want you to read the table of contents and the list of tables all the way up to chapter 1. Okay, all the stuff that I gave you that was on the PDF, that was online, this is that same stuff, okay? I want you to read through it, be able to answer questions about it by looking in here for it, okay? And then, of course, go ahead and read the general requirements if you haven't done that on the PDF. So what we're going to talk about is just what these main paragraph headings are, okay? These are very important in the context of any code book, in my opinion, because whatever's below 1.1 until 1.2 is in the context of whatever that title is, okay? Keeping that in mind can kind of keep you out of trouble with some codes. But the scope tells us what it applies to all the way through with each one of the code clauses. It gives a pretty good summary. It gives you some limitations on the code. One of the things that you read in the limitations is about materials and thicknesses. And it lists some of the other AWS codes that may cover those things for you. A very important one to read is 1.3.3 on page 2. Is the inspectors and what their titles are. Okay, it can mean a couple different things. What an OEM, and I believe this was in the book of specifications. The code terms shall, should, and may. I think the book of specifications didn't use may. I think it just used shall. Does it use all of them? Okay. So, going through that in any code book and that introduction kind of gets you familiar with maybe how it's laid out, some things that are in there. The responsibilities are very important. Okay? Again, as welding inspectors, we're just the welding inspectors. Okay? We're not the engineers, we're not the designers, we're not none of that stuff. Okay? But if you look farther below, on 1.4.3 is the inspector's responsibilities. Okay? And notice there's two different types of inspectors. There's a contractor's inspector. If I work for a company and they're contracted to do the work, I'm the contractor's inspector. If I work for the owner of the building, then I'm a verification inspector. Typically, I would be reporting to the engineer of record on the project.
One is to save your job, and one is to be sure somebody else is doing it.
That's right. Welding symbols, you notice, in case there's any kind of disconnect between the current welding symbol standard, this one refers to the 2007 edition. Okay, so you may come across some slight differences, and they're ones that we already talked about. The dimensions to the left of the welding symbol, of the weld symbol, the S and the D versus the E and the S, I think.